Welcome to Scriptural Science, a presentation of Truth and Life Institute, Boston, Massachusetts, and Oba, Nigeria. The following is a subsection of the book. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Wife. Written and published by Ifeanyi Chukwujima, scriptural scientist and a servant of God. With contributions by Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwujima, Doctor of Pharmacy. This subsection's ID is Holy Wife 4:1. A husband's position in marriage and family is fixed at number 1 with his family name, but the wife's position changes as children become part of the marriage. God announced marriage, Genesis 2 verse 18. He then created the woman and brought her together with the man in marriage, Genesis 2 verses 21 to 25. God told us that He had created both the woman and marriage to give Adam a compatible companion who will help Adam accomplish God's purpose, Genesis 2 verse 20 NIV, but for Adam no suitable helper was found. Figure 1. The woman is her marriage. Her marriage stands or falls on account of her alone, 1 Timothy 2 verse 15 NIV, but women will be saved through childbearing if they continue in faith, love, and holiness with propriety. See also Luke 23 verses 28 to 31. At their marriage, Adam, who is the head of his wife, Eve, was in first position. And Eve, who is the body of her husband, Adam, was in the second position, Genesis 2 verse 18 NIV, a helper suitable for him. And nothing was in between them. She gets all his attention and his love, and he gets all her care and her compassion. In the following passage from Malachi 2, God warns every man to remain faithful to his wife and never break faith with her. Another thing you do, you flood the Lord's altar with tears. You weep and wail because He no longer looks with favor on your offerings or accepts them with pleasure from your hands. 14. You ask, why? It is because the Lord is the witness between you and the wife of your youth. You have been unfaithful to her, though she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant. 15. Has not the one God made you? You belong to Him in body and spirit. And what does the one God seek? Godly offspring. So be on your guard, and not be unfaithful to the wife of your youth. 16. The man who hates and divorces his wife, says the Lord, the God of Israel, does violence to the one should protect, says the Lord Almighty. So be on your guard, and do not be unfaithful. Malachi 2 verses 13 to 16 NIV. Malachi 2 is telling us that God's expectation from our marriages is godly offspring, which is the goal of marriage in every culture for the furtherance of human lineages. Was that not the reason why Sarah swallowed her indignation and encouraged Abraham to sleep with her maid, Hagar, so that through Hagar, Sarah could raise a godly offspring for God, as God had declared in an oath to give to Abraham? Because of the surpassing importance of this goal of every marriage that is godly offspring, righteous Sarah wholeheartedly gave her position in her marriage to another woman, her own maid, to bring about the fulfillment of the promise God had made to her husband, Abraham. And Abraham went with the plan, and Ishmael was conceived and born to Abraham. Sarah did not relinquish her number 2 position in her marriage to Abraham to get back into that position after Hagar had conceived a child for Abraham, but to assume a position after the child that was born to her husband by her maid, Hagar. But when Sarah's maid, Hagar, started to disrespect Sarah upon her conceiving a child for Abraham, Sarah became highly distressed and bitterly accused her husband of being the cause of her misery. Sarah was not worried about losing her number 2 position to Ishmael, but about losing her position in her husband's life to her maid, now that her maid had conceived a child for her husband Abraham, Genesis 12 verses 4 to 5 NIV. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. 5. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me. May the Lord judge between you and me." The conception of Ishmael was Sarah's own idea, and she had prepared herself to raise Ishmael for Abraham, despite Ishmael coming from Hagar. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him not children. But she had an Egyptian slave named Hagar, too, so she said to Abram, "The Lord has kept me from having children. Go, sleep with my slave. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had been living in Canaan 10 years, Sarai his wife took her Egyptian slave Hagar and gave her to her husband to be his wife. Sarah's plan of raising Ishmael for her husband Abraham changed, only after Sarah saw Ishmael making childish, obscene gestures to Sarah's little Isaac, and Sarah's heart alerted her to the fight for inheritance that lay ahead between her son, the son of the free woman, Galatians 4 verse 23, and Hagar's son, the son of the slave woman, Galatians 4 verse 23. Once this dawned on her, she went to Abraham again, and this time asked that Abraham send away Ishmael and his mother, Hagar. Sarah was afraid that Isaac, too, might lose his position in Abraham's life to Ishmael, the way she feared losing her position in Abraham's life to Hagar, after Hagar had conceived a child for Abraham. Sarah was a perceptive wife who understood her place in marriage and family. Abraham's difficulty with Sarah's demand that husband away his own son with Sarah's maid was with respect to Sarah, trying to deny Ishmael his position in Abraham, the number 2 spot, right behind Abraham, since, in Abraham's mind, Ishmael as his first son were to continue the family name. Abraham respected traditions and followed them to the minutest details. At one time, he had believed that Eliezer, his slave, was going to inherit his wealth and his family name, since he and his wife Sarah were childless, Genesis 15 verses 2-3. But once God spoke to Abraham in his dream about Sarah's agitation for him to send away Ishmael and Hagar, Abraham had no choice but to do as Sarah had demanded, realizing that Sarah had earned her due with God by willingly and wholeheartedly giving up her number 2 position in sacrifice to Ishmael, the son her maid had borne to Abraham through her own design.